The population trends at most North Country schools are pretty bleak. Put simply, there just aren't enough kids. But one bright spot, the kids who are in the schools have a renewed interest in learning trades. It's growing a lot. We meet one woman who went through the BOCES HVAC program on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Pearsall Wealth Management at UBS Wealth Management USA, subsidiary UBS AG, member FINRA SIPC, 1 Broad Street, Glens Falls.
Hey, I'm David Summerstein. It's Monday, September 23rd. First up, the person who contracted New York's first case of Eastern equine encephalitis in nearly a decade has died. The case was confirmed in Ulster County in the Hudson Valley. In response, Governor Kathy Hochul mobilized multiple state agencies this afternoon and declared the situation an imminent threat to public health. EEE is spread by infected mosquitoes and can affect humans and horses. Most people infected do not develop symptoms, but those who do may experience a flu-like illness with fever, chills, body aches, and joint pain. In the most severe cases, which are rare, EEE can be fatal in roughly 1/3 of people. A man died in New Hampshire from EEE earlier this summer. EEE has killed horses around the North Country, including in Clinton, Franklin, St. Lawrence, and Washington counties. Hochul says state agencies will do more mosquito spraying, hand out insect repellent at state parks and campgrounds, and post signs around the state with facts about EEE. Officials are urging people who are outside after dusk to use repellent and wear long-sleeve clothing. People should also remove freestanding water near their homes. Even though it's fall, mosquito season will continue until multiple nights of below freezing temperatures kill the bugs. A group of people in the North Country wants to save local sandstone from buildings that are being demolished in Ogdensburg. Catherine Wheeler reports the group says it could help with historic preservation for years to come.
Every day, you might pass by Potsdam sandstone. It can be easy to pick out. Depending on where it came from, the stone features different shades of oranges, reds, pinks, and yellow grays.
The Potsdam Civic Center is made of Potsdam red sandstone. Across from it is Snell Hall. It's a pinker stone, a lighter stone.
That's Mimi Van Duzen. She's a retired Potsdam town and village historian.
You can look at St. Lawrence University here in Cole. Has a beautiful red sandstone building.
A lot of these buildings are old and historic. Some might need fixes in the future, but the stone is becoming increasingly rare.
The sandstone is finite. There's no more quarries. There's no more cut stone except in buildings that are standing.
That's why Van Duzen and several others are now behind the movement to save Potsdam sandstone from landfills. She says she wanted to start working on it when she read that the state is tearing down several old buildings at the St. Lawrence Psychiatric Center in Ogdensburg that are made from Potsdam sandstone. Van Duzen says the roughest estimates put about 2 to 4 tons of usable sandstone at the site. She says not only could the idea divert stone from landfills, but it could also help with future historic preservation. Van Duzen says that 70 buildings in St. Lawrence County are on the National Historic Register, and about 40% are made of Potsdam red sandstone.
The stone is valuable for restoration purposes, and every stone building needs to be maintained and preserved, and eventually someone will need some.
And people are getting behind the idea. Van Duzen says state and county lawmakers, Clarkson University, Trinity Church, and Bayside Cemetery in Potsdam have all been stepping up. The town and village of Potsdam have both passed resolutions supporting the movement. Town Supervisor Marty Miller says he's glad to see the community come together over preserving these important architectural features.
We're all working for the same goal, and that's to help preserve some heritage from the community of Potsdam and their sandstone, and to find a way to get it back home. That's special, and you don't see that in today's world a lot.
For the Ogdensburg site, there are a lot of logistics to figure out between locals and the state. Assemblyman Scott Gray has been working with multiple state agencies to get approval. He says officials haven't said no, but the community might have to foot the bill.
The state may require it to be cost neutral. However, they have to change this and may say, okay, as long as it remains cost neutral to us.
Van Duzen says the movement goes beyond the deteriorating psychiatric buildings.
It's more of a long-term generational project to think about it. that when we tear down buildings that have cut stone, we should be more cognizant of what we're going to do with the stone and not put it in a landfill.
Van Dusen says the group is still looking for people who want to get involved too. That could mean sending letters to lawmakers or agencies or volunteering your time and skills. Catherine Wheeler, North Country Public Radio.
Enrollment in schools has been declining across the North Country for decades, but skilled trades education has seen the opposite pattern. New York has seen a roughly 33% increase in BOCES career and technical education enrollment over the past 6 years. As part of our North Country at Work series, we talked to a recent graduate about going into the trades. Anna Williams-Bergen reports.
McKaylee Russell lives in Messina. At 23, she's part of the newest generation of the North Country's labor force. She graduated from BOCES' HVAC program in 2020.
I have a universal certification if I need to work on ACs, chest freezers, anything like that. But I couldn't find anything here to go into HVAC.
Russell was an A-plus student in school, but she didn't like it, and she certainly didn't want to go to college. BOCES was a way to get around that, get a more hands-on education. After graduation, Russell worked at LC Drives, an electric engine startup based in Potsdam.
I made cooling bars for our motors. It was a new type of motor that they were trying to create. And I ended up moving myself up to running the whole parts cage for over 120 men.
She loved that job, but the company went out of business in 2021. After that, she worked a handful of retail jobs and spent a while at Dunkin' Donuts. Since this spring, Russell's worked at Fastenal, a fulfillment center in Messina. They supply materials for places like the Power Authority. Picture stuff like nuts, bolts, really big tubing.
But for what I do now, it's mostly warehouse. I pack parts, ship parts, order stuff. We're open to the public, so anybody that needs to come in, have a bulk gauged, anything like that.
Because of her field, Russell has gotten used to being one of the only women in the room at work. That started early on. She was the only girl in the entire HVAC class her first year at BOCES.
When I did go into BOCES, it was my first time getting into a men's field, and I had to prove myself to everybody, and I still do it afterwards. So that was kind of my stepping ground of getting used to being in a field with a lot of men.
Russell says she still has to prove herself all the time.
Guy look at you and you go, oh my God, girls serving me, gauging my bolt and finding me a part. But it's like, there are some girls that do that type of thing. And I find I like a challenge with what I like to do. So it's good for me.
She says it takes a lot of courage to make it in a male-dominated field, but she knows it's right for her.
Fastenal was another good company that I can still improve in. They hire within, it's a career job. And finding that here is kind of hard to do.
Russell says the job market in the North Country is tough, even with her universal HVAC certification and other work experience. But leaving wasn't on the table. Her family's here, and Russell says her parents are the most important people in her life. So she's determined to make it work.
It was mostly a thing for me. It was getting my foot in the door somewhere and then proving my potential, which is, what I'm trying to do.
It's not HVAC, which she'd still like to work in, but she says Fastenal is a step in the right direction. For North Country Public Radio's North Country at Work project, I'm Anna Williams-Bergen in Messina.
North Country at Work is a project of NCPR that collects photos and stories about working life in our region. If you have a North Country at Work story in mind, we want to hear it. Just text the word NEXT to 315-978-6277. Again, text the word NEXT to 315-978-6277. You can also email us work@ncpr.org. Music today by I Am Snow Angel of Lake Placid and Gretchen Kohler and Daniel Kelly of Potsdam. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.